All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another great episode of the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast. And today we're back once again with a brand spanking new episode with our review of the 1991 album by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Lynyrd Skynyrd 1991. So I'm David Dunnigan, and with me, as always, is Mr. Stephen Mott. How you doing, Stephen?
Great, brother Jake Z, ZZ Top drummer.
All righty, so Lynyrd Skynyrd 1991. So Steven picked this one off of our list, which we've kind of changed things around a little bit now, and we're doing things to a list pretty much. So Steven picked this one. I know this album pretty well, and I will say that I kind of like this record. It's not a great record by any means, but I still think it's a pretty okay record. So this came out 14 years after the plane crash in 77. The first album since 1977, the first since Street Survivors, the first with the reformed Skynyrd. And so the band for this record is Johnny Van Zant on vocals, Ed King on guitar, Gary Rossington on guitar, you've got Randall Hall on guitar, Leon Wilkeson on bass, Billy Powell on keyboards, Artemis Pyle on the drums, and Kurt Custer on drums as well, his secondary drummer. And then you've got Dale Krantz Rossington on backing vocals, along with a couple of other backing vocalists. And this was actually produced by Tom Dowd. So if you're ready, Steve, let's dive into this album.
All right, ready, Jake.
All righty, so the very first track on this record is Smokestack Lightning. So this is the first track I ever heard from this record, and like I said, I was very amused, something different for me. I still enjoy this track. I think this is a good song. This is pretty much the most well-known track off the record. Pretty much, I just think it's overall a very good song and my second favorite on the record. So, Steven, what is your thoughts on Smokestack Lightning?
Not at all that great of a song, and that's verbatim from my notes. Oh, actually, it says not all that great of a song. I said it wrong. My bad. But anyway, I think they were trying to sound like, the 70s Lynyrd Skynyrd. And I think that's mainly Gary Rossington, because obviously he can sound that way because he was that, but the guitar sounded good. I mean, the lead guitar stuff, but I mean, the song sucked, so those two things still don't add up to something good. So back to you, Devin.
Alrighty, and this is one of the tracks that was actually performed live off the record. So, and I also do think this was a pretty good single for the record. So that's just an extra little tidbit there. So then we move to the second track, Keeping the Faith. Yeah, I like this track quite a bit. Pretty good song, and that's pretty much all I have to say. Steven, take this track.
It's not that great. It's pretty average sounding. It sounded like they were trying to be a certain way. And also, I would like to mention that the rhythmic stuff for this album, pretty much sounds the same every song. To be honest, that straight beat and just sounds way too straightforward, and I guess the whole thing is they want to keep it pure and simple, like one of the song names, but really it's a little too simple if you ask me. They needed to go a little bit different direction with it.
So that surprises me, actually. You don't like the drum sound for this record. I actually think this is a very tight sounding record. So yeah, I like Keeping the Faith. I believe this was a promotional single for radio and stuff. Never a actual commercial single for the record. So then we move to the next track, Southern Women. So yeah, overall I like Southern Women. Very good song. And that's pretty much all I have for this particular track. So, Steven, take Southern Women.
It pretty much doesn't have any content to it, and sounds too typical and straightforward. Too just sounds like something every out of. It just seems like these songs were just spewed out without even thinking about what they were doing. I'd be willing to bet that all these songs were written within 2 weeks, like probably 1 or 2 weeks, and just from the sound of them, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of effort was put into it. I hate it. So back to you, Devin.
Alrighty, so we move then to track number 4. So the track number 4 is Pure and Simple. So this is the first ballad on the album. Guess you could say 1 out of 2 ballads, possibly maybe 3, maybe, but I will get to that a little bit later. And maybe just the only ballad if you just on the way you interpreted some of the songs later on the album. So Pure and Simple, I do like. I think this is a relatively good song. It's, of course, kind of a country ballad. I think this would have been a good kind of crossover single for like the country audiences because it very much sounds like early 90s country in a lot of ways, and also sounds a lot like Johnny Van Zant's Brickyard Road from 1990. And so, Steven, take Pure and Simple.
Decent sounding, but the execution isn't there at all as far as musically. And two, I think they should have been more electric guitar based rather than just acoustic / everything else. That normally goes along with the band. I don't think that quite sounds right with this or anything much, and they went too far and stayed too long. That's the bottom, tall and short of it. That's all I can say. It's not. The song. This is the only song on the album. The songwriting. I like the songwriting on this song, but that's all I like. The execution was just not good. It just sucked. So back to you, Devin.
So this was also, I believe, a promotional single. I could see a video for this song. I can just visualize a possible music video for this track. So then we move. That's just kind of a tidbit before we move to the next track. Move to the next track. Track number 5. I've Seen Enough. So starts with a drum intro. I'm assuming this is by Kurt Custer. I'm not real sure who plays drums on what song on this record, or if they're both playing in different places. I'm not real sure. I just know that both drummers are credited on this album. Both are members of the band by this point. I believe Kurt Custer was brought in actually by Ed King, and Kurt Custer he had been playing with Steve Earle. He's on the song Copperhead Road, and he actually has a co-write on this song. So yeah, I like this track. It's very different for Skynyrd. It's a good song. The backing vocals suck on this track. So yeah, I like this track. It's a good song. A very, very different track. So Steven, take I've Seen Enough.
The subject matter is very agreeable, and I agree with what they're saying. It's not that great. So back to you, Dev.
So Steven, take Good Thing.
Very hard to listen to and gets progressively worse as it goes on. Verbatim notes again, and I think it goes a lot better when I do verbatim from my notes. And I don't know, it's just not great. I know I go a lot more into depth, and go and do a lot better job of analyzing songs and whatnot. Back to you, Dev.
Alrighty, and so we agree on this particular song. So then we'll move to track number 7, Money Man. So it starts out kind of bluesy. I'm with you when it starts. The worst song on the record for me. Steven, take this crappy clunker of a song.
Stupid song, but it is probably true, the subject matter of it. And I think they were taking that from, the old story from Leonard Skinner days before the plane crash, of the manager taking all the money so they couldn't get a good plane or good this or that, but because the manager, they blamed it on the manager taking all the money, which probably was true, but who knows. I think it's kind of amusing, some of the talking in it, kind of a creative way of conveying what they were trying to say, but other than just writing a normal song with it. But I think it's kind of interesting, but it did suck, don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to find a positive, because so far I've been very bad at that. But
Alrighty. And I just want to paraphrase a line at the end of this song. It says at one point, just look at him. He's a honey man. Do we even know if he's even a man?
I remember that.
I mean, that's paraphrasing. That's not the exact lyrics, but that's some of the crap, stupid junk that's in this song. I hate this track. So let's get on to the best song on the freaking record, Backstreet Crawler. So this to me is the closest this album comes, up next to Smokestack Lightning, to a classic Skinner type track. I think this could fit at just in the middle of any of those classic albums. It has that swamp groove. Why isn't more of this album like this? It was performed live, followed by a Gary Rossington guitar solo. I love this song. Steven, take this song. Good Lord, I cannot speak. Take this song and you better not hate it.
Okay, I'll take this trunk, Devin. So anyway, horrible. The lead guitar doesn't fit with it. It's not a horrible song. This is probably one of the better songs on the album, which isn't saying very much at all. And anyway, not to go off on too much of a idiot tangent, but I hate the drum sound on the entire album. It just sucks, and they needed to get Devin Dunnigan to play drums for them and pick their drum sound too, because it was not that great. Because Devin Dunnigan is the GOAT. So that's my final opinion of the song. Back to you, Devin.
Alrighty, and was the big word you were looking for just a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago pedestrian?
Probably.
So then we move to track number 9. It's a killer. So I like this one. It has a co-write from Donnie Van Zant. Donnie Van Zant also co-wrote Good Thing on this record. Two very similar kind of vibes, but I think It's a Killer is a better track. I think they get much more of what Good Thing was trying to be. It's kind of AOR, kind of commercial rock crossed with country, kind of a country rock. I could have seen this being a popular song on country rock radio or something like that. I do love the fact that Billy Powell gets to shine. He also got to shine on Good Thing as well. And I like this track. I think it's a pretty good song. And if I'm not bad wrong, I read on Setlist FM that this was actually performed way before the album actually ever come out. So that's pretty interesting to me. I think it's a fine song. I enjoy it. So, Steven, take It's a Killer.
It sounds like they tried to use the exact same rhythm for every song. It just sounds too typical, like they just throw the rhythm together and just played some random crap over it and just said, "Oh, okay, here's the rhythm. Let's go to sleep and dream up some random crap lyrics and get high and write some stuff." But and there you go. That's probably what they did with this whole album. They probably wrote this whole album in like 1 hour. So there you go. Back to you. Devin.
So then we move to the next track, Mama, in parentheses, Afraid to Say Goodbye. So this is another Donnie Van Zant co-write. Like Money Man, oh my God. This is terrible. It's boring. It's 6 minutes and 44 seconds long. And I mean, you feel every minute of it. It's first of all kind of a depressing subject because it's about someone's mother dying. I'm not sure whose it was because I don't believe any of the Van Zants lost any of their parents until later on after the fact, but or after later on after these first several albums. So I'm not sure where they got the subject matter at or who is the subject of the whole subject matter, but it's just a terrible song. It kind of sounds like Tuesday's Gone AWOL pretty much. It's just it's a bad song. I really don't like this particular track, and that's pretty much all I have to say. Just a terrible song. I really don't like it. It's just a depressing song from a band that kind of had a depressing past. So I mean, you would think they would try to do something kind of keep things going in a more positive manner. I mean, I understand. I mean, the subject matter kind of sounds like something that Ronnie Van Zant would have written about. It does sound like something Ronnie would have written back in the day, but it comes off as just a boring, lifeless piece of junk. So, Stephen, take this song.
All right, brother. 3 words to describe it: bad, horrible, and disgusting. Tried to be a certain way with this album and didn't fit the songwriting at all. Mainly, I'm referring to the guitar playing rhythmically and leadily. No, that's not how you say it. Anyway, and it's just really bad, and it sucks. That's the only way I can. That's the only thing I can think of for this whole album.
End of the Road. So, End of the Road. I like it. I think it's kind of the perfect ending for the record. It's very AOR kind of. It's just AOR meets country in a way. I could have seen this being another single, possibly on the record. I like it. I would have very much cut this album down about 3 or 4 songs, probably 3. I'd have made this song an 8-album song, and at least you would have gotten, at least in my opinion, a decent attempt to cop the classic Skynyrd feel. So yeah, I mean, End of the Road's fine. It's kind of AOR meets country once again on the record, and I can dig it. It's nothing It's nothing spectacular. I almost said it's nothing personal, but it's kind of ironic because it says we can't seem to find the end of the road, and Kiss really needs to cover this song. So yeah, we're gonna get a lot of Kiss fans upset on that, but yeah, the first of the night here on the show. So Stephen, take End of the Road.
Honestly, you know what I realized about this song? The chord progression, the song, and everything, the chorus sounds just like it. It sounds just like Can't Find My Way Home, originally by Blind Faith. It sounds just like it. I swear. And even the Can't Find the End of the Road, that's basically almost the same thing. They didn't realize it, but they copied that song. I swear to you. Listen to them back to back. They copied that song. So, anyway, back to you, Dev.
Alrighty, and it also seems to me to rip off one more time off of Street Survivors. Listen to that song and listen to this song. They sound very, very similar as well. But I didn't pick up Can't Find My Way Home. That's pretty interesting. So that brings an end to this album, and I give this album probably a 8 out of 10. just being generous. So, do I recommend this as the first, second generation Skynyrd album? Probably not. I'll save that for my recommendation. So, Stephen, take it away. What's your final thoughts and opinions on this record? And we'll start wrapping this thing up.
The songwriting just wasn't there at all, and I hate this album. It was an epic fail, and I'll just say, lastly, it was a 0 out of 10 for me. So that's about the third or fourth one I've put a 0 out of 10 on so far. And so there you go, brother. Back to you.
Alrighty, so let's get into our picks of the week. So, my pick of the week as far as music goes is Lynyrd Skynyrd 20 from 1997, 20 years after the plane crash. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. And my movie pick of the week, man, I haven't been watching much movies lately, so, or many movies lately. So I recommend Psycho 2, and I've probably picked this before. Psycho 2 is a good sequel. If you've never seen it, go watch it. I think it's one of the few sequels that's just as good as the first one. Alrighty, so this brings us pretty much to a close in the episode. And
you gonna let me do the honors to close it out?
Yeah, go right ahead. And then we'll go straight from there and we'll take you into some tracks. So I've got a couple of tracks I'm going to put in at the end of this episode. One's a demo for a track on this album, and I'm going to throw in a few live songs from this era. So, Stephen, do the honors.
See you next time.
All righty. Bye-bye, everyone.